Hi, my name is Lisa and welcome to a new video. About a year ago I filmed a week in my life video back when I was still living in Croatia, in Karlovac, and I was a European Solidarity Corps volunteer. And to this day, almost every week I still get some messages on Instagram or other platforms of people asking me questions about my experience as a volunteer in an Erasmus Plus program and other questions related to this topic. So thank you for that. But first of all, I want to tell you that if you need any information about these types of volunteering programs, you can always find a lot of things on the internet. Just Google it. European Union has a lot of great websites where they explain their programs, or contact your local youth center or school and ask if they maybe know a bit more about these programs as well, because unfortunately I cannot answer every single question because I also have a life. So yeah, just for you to know, you can find some information online as well, but always feel free to ask me things about my experience as well. So in this video I would love to talk about my experience as a volunteer and how it was for me, especially looking back at it 1 year later, because at this point it's been almost 1 year since I've returned back to the Netherlands. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, first of all, let me explain my situation. I was 18 when I went to Croatia, and it was in the European Solidarity Corps program, and back then I think it was still called the European Voluntary Service. But yeah, it's a volunteering program where you volunteer about 30 hours a week. It depends a bit on your project, and in exchange you get free accommodation, food money, pocket money, insurance, flight ticket, and some extra things. And I volunteered in Croatia, in Karlovac. It's a small town close to the capital, to Zagreb. And I worked in a youth center there, and I volunteered for 11 months, almost 1 year. So that's my situation. Oh, and I lived with two roommates or two housemates from France and Spain. Lydia, Clara, if you're watching this, you know I love you, but they were also volunteers in my organization. So that was my situation. And now let's start from the beginning. I was 17 and I was still in high school in the Netherlands, and I had almost finished my high school, and I really just wanted to do something different. I wanted to take a gap year before university, and I wanted to travel the world and see new places and do something meaningful. So I went on the internet, I looked for things what to do, and also I had no money because I'm not one of those teenagers who took a gap year and their parents paid a lot of money for them. No, I did everything myself. And I looked on the internet and I found a European Solidarity Corps program. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. So I contacted a sending organization in the Netherlands, and they told me it's going to be super difficult for you to find a project. So I was a bit nervous and I thought, okay, well, I'm going to try anyways. And I applied for the first one. It was a project in Croatia in a youth center, because beforehand I had already decided that I wanted to work with young people. That's just the field that I find most interesting, but you have all kinds of projects. And for the country, I originally wanted to go to France because I wanted to learn French, but I was quite open to every other country. So I saw a project in Croatia that I really liked. I applied for it, and I think about 2 days later I got an email saying, "We like you, do you want to have a Skype meeting with us?" And I thought, okay, why not? So I had the Skype meeting with my future supervisor. It was very nice, and the next day I got an email saying, "We would love to invite you to come to Croatia for 1 year, and we have chosen you as our volunteer." So I was very surprised and also kind of excited about it. 1 year was long. Originally I wanted to go about 6 months, but I found projects for 1 year, so I thought, okay, then I might as well go for 1 year. And I accepted the offer. And I think it was in January that I got the project, and I went to Croatia in October eventually.
Oh my gosh. I just got an email that they chose me as a volunteer, and I honestly can't believe it. I'm about to cry. This was actually the first project I applied for, so I'm so surprised that they chose me. I had a Skype call yesterday and it went pretty well, but oh my god, I can't believe it. So I'll be going to Croatia next year for 11 months.
So I finished my high school, I graduated, I worked all summer, I took some fun trips with friends, and then the day was there that I was going to go to Croatia. And at the airport I just cried a lot. I had just turned 18, I had to say goodbye to my family and some of my friends, and it was just really horrible. The day itself was absolutely horrible, and the flight, it was my first time going alone by plane. It was just the worst thing ever. So I cried for hours and hours, and I arrived in Croatia. My boss picked me up by car, and the other volunteer, Clara from France, she also arrived on the same day, and we just sat in the car. We didn't say anything to each other because we were super tired and emotional, and we went to our new apartment. There we arrived in the apartment, got like a little tour from a previous volunteer, and we settled a bit. And then at night we immediately went to a Croatian bar. Remember, I had just turned 18. I had never really been to a bar in the Netherlands before. And here I was on the other side of Europe, going to a bar with people that I didn't know at all. And yeah, it was fun, but really overwhelming. And when I got back to the apartment, I cried a lot. It was just, at that point, I regretted my decision so much, because I think I really underestimated what I was doing. I thought like, oh yeah, it's just 1 year, it's blah, whatever. But looking back on it, it was a big step for me. I mean, I was so young. I'm still young, but I was very, very young. And I just took a plane to a country that I had only been to once in my life, and it was kind of a crazy decision, but yeah, I did it anyways. And then some days passed and it got much better. Everything was starting to feel normal again. I slowly got to know the people. They were all very nice, and I got to know the town, and yeah, it just took some time for me to really settle down, which I think is completely normal. So if this happens to you as well, don't worry about it. It's very, very normal. And then soon after that, I think 2 weeks after I had arrived, I had my on-arrival training. This is something you get when you are a volunteer, a long-term ESC volunteer. So that's a project of 2 months, or but like more than 2 months, which was my case. And I went to this small village where we met many other volunteers all around Croatia, and it was a super fun week. You get to know a lot of things about volunteering, about what to do when things go wrong, and most importantly, you meet other people who live quite close to you, so you can become friends with them and see them again. So all in all, it was a very fun week. Then I went back to Karlovac together with my housemate. When we arrived there, my other housemate, Lydia from Spain, had arrived as well. And yeah, thankfully I got along with both of them so well. We really became best friends during that year. And to this day, I still miss them a lot. I loved the times we spent together, and we were all in the same boat. Even though in the beginning I was kind of worried because I was only 18 and my housemates were 24 and 28 at the time, I think. But despite the age difference, we really got along and it was not a problem at all. So don't worry about those kind of things. Age is just a number. And then the days slowly went by. I was working a lot. We were doing a lot of promotional work for language classes we were organizing in the youth center. For Christmas, I went back to my family, which was very nice. And then after Christmas, I returned to Croatia and I had my second down moment. Because I think you just saw your family and it gets really sad. And I had only been in Croatia for 2 months at that point, and I still had so many months to go. And I was a bit worried about it. But it all turned out to be alright. And from that moment onwards, I think we really started to travel a lot. Almost every weekend, me and my housemates and some other friends we made went to different countries, to different places, different cities. I think I went to 10 different cities in the end. I'm not sure, but I went. Let's quickly name it. I will for sure forget some of the countries because it was just so long. 1 year of traveling around Croatia and the countries surrounding Croatia. It's a long time. But I went to Slovenia, Ljubljana, and Blood Lake, Vienna, Bratislava, Florence, Venice, see the carnival. Well, I won't include the cities inside Croatia because there are too many. I went to Budapest, to Belgrade, to Sarajevo, to a festival in Bosnia. I went to Dubrovnik, it's inside Croatia, but yeah, and many more. This is just a small sum of the places I went to, but it was super amazing. The traveling was really the best part of my experience as a volunteer. And I'm kind of all over the place, but just in case you want to know how much money I saved, I think I saved around 1,600 euros before I went to Croatia, and this was more than enough for me to spend a whole year of traveling and doing fun things. Remember that I was in Croatia. It's probably cheaper around there than other parts of Europe. And also this was just the money for traveling because I got pocket money and food money for everything else, and the apartment was also covered. So this was purely traveling, around 1,600 euros for 1 year, which is not too bad in my opinion. Well, the year it started to progress, everything starts to feel normal at one point. It's just your life, you make new friends, you settle down. I didn't learn Croatian, the language. I wanted to in the beginning when I just arrived there, but in the end it just the fact was that people spoke English all the time, so it wasn't really a problem, and there was no necessity to learn Croatian. And also we had only a online language learning program, which just sucks. So yeah, that's why I didn't really learn the language, but it's something that I kind of regret. So I would totally advise that if you are in a foreign country, learn a bit of the language, at least a little bit.
Oh ja, nou, okay. Zovem se Lisa, imam 18 godina, dolazim iz Nizozemske.
Woohoo! Bravo!
You sound great. So the time passed by, we were doing a lot of work. I started a podcast for a while. I did some other super fun things, traveling a lot, blah blah blah, all these things. And then around summer, one of my housemates had left because she found a job back in France, and it was just me and my Spanish housemate, and we went traveling around Croatia in the summer because the summer is just so nice there. We hitchhiked to some islands and spent the nights camping there, which was truly amazing. I spent my birthday on an island as well. And at the end of the summer, it was time for me to go back to the Netherlands. So I took all my stuff a whole year of stuff in one suitcase. Well, I took 2, but one of them I had already returned in May when I went back to the Netherlands. So yeah, the rest of the stuff I had to fit in one suitcase, which was horrible, and I had to leave a lot of things behind. But yeah, it's just stuff, so it's fine. I went back to the Netherlands. 1 week after returning, I started university. A bit crazy as well, because my timing was just, I took no rest in between getting back and starting university, which was probably too much for me looking back at it. But yeah, I just make some stupid decisions. Yay! And I started university. I do European studies at the University of Amsterdam. And a little bit after coming back, I found an apartment in Amsterdam, and I am in my apartment right now. My camera just stopped recording, but yeah, I'm in my apartment right now, and my studies is going super well. And looking back on my experience as a volunteer, it's only sweet memories, really. Well, of course there were very difficult times. I felt very lonely at some points. I wasn't really homesick, but lonely was more of a problem for me, because sometimes I just didn't feel understood. But it's just something that's part of the experience, and in the end it really made me grow as a person, and I'm very thankful for the lessons I learned there. And I think when you want to grow as a person, it's probably the best thing to do, to just go to another country and try something completely new. And whether that's for just 2 weeks or for 1 year or 2 years, or the time doesn't really matter that much. So looking back on it, it's very strange to think that it's been almost 1 year, but it was probably one of the best decisions I ever made. And the program, the European Solidarity Corps program, of course isn't perfect. There are many flaws in the system, but in general it's such a great opportunity that if you have the opportunity to do it, if you have the privilege, because I feel very privileged that I was able to go away for 1 year. I know that it's not a possibility for everyone, but if you happen to live in the EU countries or some partnering countries and you have the opportunity to do it, I would totally encourage you to do it, because it's such a great experience. And even if you don't enjoy it, in the end you will probably be still thankful that you chose to go on such an adventure. I met many great people whom I learned a lot from, and even now in my studies I feel like it's been very useful to have had all the experiences that I had last year. The only, well, it's not really a downside, but for me, I went there when I was 18. I had lived with my parents all the time, and suddenly I lived in an apartment that I shared with 2 other girls, and it was just a big step for me, not living on my own part, but just all of it together. And when I returned, I tried living in my parents' house for a while, but very soon after I returned, I felt the need to move out and go into my own apartment. And thankfully, I found an apartment that I could afford. So that's the only downside, because after I'd been living independently for so long, returning back into my parents' house was just very difficult. So that's my only downside, but it's not really a downside, because in the end it turned out just fine, and I wouldn't change it any other way. So hopefully I have explained you I've told my story to you, and hopefully you like listening to it, or maybe you even learned from it. I will include some links down below about the European Solidarity Corps program and a short description of how it works if you want to try it as well. Maybe after this whole virus situation is over and it's all becoming a little bit normal again. But if you have the opportunity, I would encourage you to do it. And if you have any questions, of course you can always write me, or you can search for it on the internet, or contact a local youth center or school and ask if they maybe have some information about these types of programs. So that's it. Have a nice day, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!